You know, guys, even months and years after I've made this statement, it is still true to this day, and it's kind of funny because every time this happens, I tell you guys the exact same thing. There is no good news in Call of Duty nowadays, not in the dark ages of COD at least. And that doesn't mean that there's never a good decision made about Call of Duty, it just means every time there is something good, it can never just be good news. There's always bad news attached to it. And today's no different, and as a matter of fact, today we have bad news for Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 and Part 3. So you know, Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer Games, they're collaborating, trying their best to make the worst possible decisions ever made for Call of Duty, and to be completely honest, that's kind of what they do best. And I'm gonna start with the Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 news because this actually came out in like the last 15 minutes of me recording this right now. And this comes from Charlie Intel. He says, Infinity Ward said in an interview with us at Dexerto that the final 3 maps for Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 this year are more built for competitive. In quotes, as a fun side note, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but the last 3 maps of this year were kind of leaned into maps I think would play that style really well. The COD League season for MW 2019 Part 2 ends in June. And as many of you guys know, I love competitive gameplay. I liked ranked play. This is what you're seeing in the background, in fact. And so, while I'm a big fan of competitive maps, because most of the base maps in this game are not competitive whatsoever, even though I'm a fan of this, and this sounds like good news, guys, what do you think the bad news is here? And to people with common sense, you probably have the answer, but we know the gooch lickers out there, they're a little slower, so I might need to explain this one just a little bit to them. Guys, we are in the middle of Season 3. The next COD game does not come out until November. Guys, the next COD game is more than 5 months away, and you're telling me in the next 5 months, we are only getting 3 new original DLC maps? Guys, that is fucking criminal. I don't care if they were made by God himself. I don't care if they're the best maps in the entire franchise. 3 original DLC maps across the next 5 to 6 months is not good. And I know they're not including remastered maps, but we're gonna talk about remastered maps in a bit with MW 2019 Part 3, but for this just proves once again, not only are Infinity Ward and Activision lazy bums, they're untalented because their previous DLC maps were all dog shit. Why did I have to go through 3 or 4 original DLC maps that all suck horse balls before I got to 3 competitive maps that might actually be good? Not only that, but the competitive season ends in June, so it's kind of pointless to make competitive maps to add into ranked play when the CDL season that ranked play is based around ends next month. And not only that, but when people were begging you for good competitive original DLC maps, all we got were Expo, the Lighthouse map, and we had a map in the fucking dark, Night Vision map. The fuck? And a map pulled from the campaign. Guys, this is exactly what I mean by no good news in Call of Duty can just be good news. Because although we're getting good news in the fact that it's competitive maps that I personally like, there's only 3 of them. And this comes 7 months after the launch of the game. And the competitive season ends in the next month. And these are the only original DLC maps across the next 5 to 6 months of the game's life cycle. Guys, none of this is good. What the fuck? And I know some gooch lickers are gonna respond with, oh well, you know what, Fooly? They're just talking about original DLC maps. We can still get a lot of remastered maps. And this is where the Modern Warfare 2019 Part 3 speculation kicks in. Now, I've been having this thought since MW 2019 Part 3 got leaked, but it wasn't until other content creators brought this up that it really put it into perspective for me. This comes from Exclusive Ace. He says, really makes me wonder why we can't have any MW2 remastered maps in MW 2019 Part 2. Why hold those off for Modern Warfare 2019 Part 3 when that game could integrate the fan favorite maps from the original MW3? And that is a really good point. Because if we remember, what this next project was supposed to be an expansion from this game, MW 2019 Part 2, including majority of the maps from the original MW2. That's what this next project was supposed to be. Plans changed to make it its own identity, I get it, whatever. You gotta nostalgia bait the gooch lickers into purchasing the next game. I understand, you wanna make some money, I completely get it. I mean, Activision, you're fucking stupid, but still, I get it. So if if the original MW2 maps are going to be in the next game, then where would the original MW3 maps go? Would they also go into the next game? Because that doesn't really make sense to me if they're trying to make that game its own identity and not just an expansion remastered game. You understand what I'm saying here? Where does that leave the fan favorite MW3 maps? Because I know a lot of people are up in arms for MW2 maps, but let's not forget, the MW3 maps were also pretty fucking good. And I'll get back to what this means for the rest of MW 2019 Part 2, but before we get to that, guys, I tweeted out something that I wanted to share with you guys. My Twitter is Fooly with 2 Y's at the end. I only have good takes on there, okay? So please give me a follow if you'd like. But the MW2 Ghost tweeted out good times about the MW3 original base maps. And the Scat Master himself quote tweeted this with 16 maps at launch, 90% of them were good to great, terminal remastered for free, and some free face-off maps as well. It's a shame that the name MW3 will be ruined later this year. And guys, I understand if some people don't agree that some of the MW3 maps were really good, but it is a fact that that game launched with 16 original maps. And contrary to popular belief, from Gooch Lickers by the way, we did get free DLC maps. And one of them was Terminal Remastered for free. And we got free face-off maps, which were really good, and so good that whenever MW got rebooted, face-off maps essentially became gunfight maps. And so if Modern Warfare 2019 Part 3 is going to have its own identity, do you really think there's going to be 16 original maps for that game that are not remastered? And if there is that many, do you think they're even gonna compare to the original MW3? Personally, I think the fuck not. There is no way those new original base maps are gonna be anything compared to the original MW3 maps. And here once again is where we shift gears, guys. The Scat Master is gonna use a lot of logic, so if the Gooch Lickers don't understand or you're too slow, perhaps this is where you click off. Listen, if the next game is going to include both original MW2 and MW3 original maps as remastered maps, and that's what that game is going to be, just a compilation of some of the best maps across MW2 and MW3, why the fuck would we be charged $70 for it? Here's another thing to think about. If we're not going to get any MW3 maps, but there's original base maps for the next game and MW2 remastered maps, to me, you know what that sounds like? That still sounds like an expansion pack to MW 2019 Part 2. Why would we be charged $70 for it? And here's the third point, guys. If the next game is going to include original base maps and MW2 remastered maps and MW3 remastered maps, so including all three things, to me that sounds like it could possibly be one of the greatest Call of Duties of all time. But don't forget what we're dealing with, guys. We're dealing with Sledgehammer Games and Infinity Ward, both of them top 2 worst developers across any game in the history of fucking gaming. One of them is a group of untalented morons, and the other one has a vision that nobody fucking likes. To me, I see no world where they do all of the above and it actually comes out good. I'm not saying that's impossible, but if you've seen my last 2 videos, then you understand very good and well, this next game has no chance of being developed properly. It is going to be underdeveloped because they didn't really have any time to work on it. Now, don't forget, Sledgehammer was open to the idea of making fucking Vanguard 2. I don't know what possessed them to think that, but on top of making their own unique title, they were given the task by Activision to make the expansion pack for MW 2019 Part 2. Once the plans changed and that next game had to be its own unique title, the maps that Sledgehammer Games were working on for the possibility of Vanguard 2, those maps that they were already working on are most likely going to be some of the base maps for the next COD. Now, is there a chance that those base maps are going to be any good? But most likely fucking not. I mean, majority of the maps from Vanguard were not very good. And yes, there were 16 of them, but remember, to make a good Call of Duty title, there needs to be a lot of gears working at the same time. Not only do you need a lot of launch maps, but those launch maps actually need to be fucking good. You see, back in the day, a task like that was extremely easy to pull off in less than a year with less developers on older consoles. But nowadays, where there's supposed to be this massive advancement, right? Call of Duty 2.0, don't forget it. I didn't say it. Activision said that. Nowadays, These motherfuckers can't pull that shit off, even with more developers and more development time. So where does that leave us, guys? Because to me, now I'm just fucking confused. I guess they can implement some of the MW2 maps into this game and some of the original MW3 maps into this game, but now you're just jumbling random shit and just throwing things at a wall and hoping they stick. And once again, we could have easily had original MW2 maps in this game, but now we're over 6 to 7 months into the game's life cycle, and we've yet to see one original MW2 map. Mind you, there's Terminal, Quarry, Afghan, and other MW2 maps in the Warzone map. So to the Gooch Lickers, how the fuck do you still constantly defend this game, the next game, and Infinity Ward? Look guys, it's something to think about, it's something to speculate. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but personally I'm fucking confused and none of it makes sense. And like I've been saying for quite some time now, this is just the norm here in the dark ages of COD. And if you think the next COD is gonna pull us out of this shit, I personally think you are wrong. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. What kind of maps do you think we're gonna get in the next COD? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with my newest videos, and yeah guys, it's been the boy Fooly. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out of here. Toodles.
It's been a very long time since the weekend. It's been a very long time and I'm weak. It's been a very long time since you seen me. Don't know why.